Jake Harrison sat in the communications room of the U.E. Saginaw, watching the endless stream of data scroll across his screens. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. It was 3 a.m, ship time, and most of the crew was sleeping. Jake liked the night shift. It gave him time to think and watch the stars through the small window beside his station. The U.E.S. Titan was the biggest and most powerful ship in Earth's secret fleet. For 30 years, humans had been building warships in hidden bases beyond Mars. They used technology taken from crashed alien ships and strange artifacts found buried on dead worlds. The government told people they were building mining stations. But Jake knew better. Earth was getting ready for war. Jake had been monitoring space for 5 years now. He listened to radio signals from distant stars, hoping to catch something important. Most nights, he heard nothing but static and the background noise of the universe. Tonight felt different, though. His equipment was picking up something strange. At first, it sounded like any other signal. Random beeps and electronic noise that meant nothing. But then the computer started working on it, running it through translation programs that took decades to build. Slowly, the noise became words. "Help us," the voice said through the speakers. It was not human, but the translation made it sound desperate and afraid. "Please, anyone who can hear this. My people are dying. We need help." Jake sat up straight and turned up the volume. His heart was beating fast. This was it. This was the moment Earth had been waiting for. First contact with aliens, and they were asking for help. The signal kept coming. "This is Commander Tessara of the Zelani Republic. Our worlds are under attack. The Vorth Empire has come to our space with their war fleets. They destroy our cities and take our people as slaves. We have fought for 2 years, but we are not warriors. Our ships are not made for battle. Please, if there is anyone out there who values life and freedom, help us. We are transmitting our location. Time is running out." Jake recorded everything and ran to wake up his commander. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Brooks was sleeping in her quarters when Jake pounded on her door. She opened it looking tired and angry, but her expression changed when she saw Jake's face. "Commander, you need to hear this," Jake said, holding up his recording device. Sarah listened to the message 3 times. Each time, her face grew more serious. When it finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "How long has this been transmitting?" she asked. "About 10 minutes. The signal is strong, but it's coming from really far away. Maybe 200 light years. Get me Admiral Carter now." Jake ran back to his station and opened a secure channel to the flagship. Admiral Lisa Carter was the commander of Earth's Third Fleet, 12 of the most advanced warships humans had ever built. She was known for making quick decisions and never backing down from a fight. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen. She looked wide awake, even though it was the middle of the night. "What do you have for me, Brooks?" Sarah played the alien. Message. Admiral Carter listened without saying a word. When it ended, she leaned back in her chair and was quiet for almost a minute. "Any idea if this is real?" she finally asked. "The signal patterns match what our scientists predicted alien communications would look like," Sarah said. "The translation software is working perfectly. Either this is the most elaborate fake in history, or we just made first contact." Admiral Carter nodded slowly. "And they're asking for military help." "Yes, ma'am. They say they're not warriors. They're being attacked by something called the Vorth Empire." Jake watched the Admiral think. He knew she was weighing their orders against what was right. Earth's fleet was supposed to stay hidden and watch. They were not supposed to make contact with aliens until the government said it was okay. But here were aliens asking for help, and Earth had the ships to give it. How long would it take us to reach their location? Admiral Carter asked. Sarah looked at Jake, who quickly ran the numbers. "About 6 days at maximum speed, Admiral. And our orders are to maintain radio silence and avoid contact." "Yes, ma'am." Admiral Carter was quiet again. Jake could see her thinking about the choice she had to make. Follow orders and let the aliens die, or break orders and possibly save them. "You know what I think?" Admiral Carter said finally. "I think our orders were written before we knew there were good people out there being hurt by bad people. Sometimes you have to do what's right, not what's safe." She turned to someone outside the screen. "Get me the fleet commanders, all of them. We're having a meeting in 1 hour." Sarah smiled. "Are we going to help them, Admiral?" "We're going to do more than help them, Commander. We're going to show this Fourth Empire what happens when they pick on innocent people. They're about to learn that Earth doesn't like bullies." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He thought about the 12 warships of the Third Fleet, each one carrying enough firepower to level the city. The ships were designed to fight in space, with weapons that could punch through any armor and shields that could stop almost any attack. They were built by a species that had been fighting wars for thousands of years. The Fourth Empire had no idea what was coming for them. Admiral Carter's image disappeared from the screen. Sarah turned to Jake with a serious expression. "Start preparing a full intelligence report on everything we heard," she said. "And Jake, today we make history. Today, Earth shows the galaxy who we really are." Jake nodded and went back to his station. Outside the window, the stars looked the same as always, but everything had changed. Somewhere out there, aliens were fighting and dying. Soon, they would not be fighting alone. The UE Sidon began to turn toward the distant stars where the Zelani Republic was making their last stand. Behind it, 11 other warships changed course as well. Earth's first war fleet was going to answer. A distress call, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 days later, the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zelani system. What they saw made everyone stop and stare. The space around the planet Keros was full of burning ships. Huge alien vessels, long and curved, like sea creatures, were firing bright energy beams at each other. Some ships were beautiful, with smooth lines and glowing parts that looked more like art than weapons. Others were dark and angular, built only for destruction. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the UES Ranger, watching the battle through his ship's cameras. He had been a fighter pilot before becoming a ship commander, and he could tell which side was losing. "The pretty ships are getting beaten badly," he said to his weapons officer, Lieutenant Danny Murphy. "They're trying to protect something on the planet, but they don't know how to fight." Danny nodded, studying the tactical display. "The dark ships are using pack tactics. They surround the defenders and hit them from all sides. Classic predator behavior." On the UE's Titan, Admiral Carter was getting reports from all her ships. The alien battle had been going on for hours, and the defending ships were almost gone. Only a few dozen remained, trying to form a protective circle around the planet. "Communications, can you reach the defenders?" Admiral Carter asked. Jake Harrison was working at his station, trying to break through the interference from all the weapons fire. "I'm getting something, Admiral. Wait, I have them." A new voice came through the speakers, different from the first distress call. This one sounded tired and desperate. "Unknown ships, please identify yourselves. If you are here to help the Vorth, we surrender. We have no more fight left in us." Admiral Carter picked up her microphone. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the CART, Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call 6 days ago. We're here to help." There was a long silence. Then the alien voice came back, sounding confused. "Earth? We do not know this world? Are you another member of the Republic?" "No, We're from outside your area of space, but we don't like seeing good people get hurt by bullies." Dr. Amanda Wells, the fleet's alien specialist, was listening to every word. She had spent years studying the few alien artifacts Earth had found, trying to understand how other species might think and act. This was her first chance to talk to living aliens. "Admiral, ask them about their enemy," she said. "We need to understand what we're fighting." Admiral Carter nodded. "Can you tell us about the Vorth? What are their ships capable of?" The alien commander, who had said his name was Tisara, sounded surprised by the question. "You truly do not know them? The Vorth Empire has conquered half this arm of the galaxy. Their ships have energy shields that stop all weapons. Their crews are born for war. They have been fighting for 1,000 years. Captain Brooks smiled grimly as he listened. "Admiral, request permission to show them what human weapons can do." "Permission?" "Granted, Captain. All ships, this is Admiral Carter. We're going to teach these Vorth what happens when they pick on innocent people. Attack Formation Delta. Show them how Earth fights." The 12 human ships spread out and moved toward the battle. The Vorth had noticed them by now and were turning some of their ships to face this new threat. The defending aliens watched in confusion as the small human fleet moved toward enemies that had been beating them for hours. Captain Brooks led the first attack. The UES Ranger and 3 other ships came in fast and low, using the planet's gravity. To increase their speed, the Vorth ships fired their energy weapons, bright beams that could cut through most armor. But the human ships didn't try to block the energy weapons. Instead, they moved in patterns the Vorth had never seen, dodging and weaving like fighters instead of big warships. When they got close enough, they fired back. The human weapons were different from anything in the galaxy. Instead of energy beams, they fired solid metal bullets as big as cars, moving at incredible speed. They also launched missiles with nuclear warheads, weapons that most species had given up using long ago. The first Vorth ship to get hit couldn't believe what happened. Its energy shield, which had stopped every weapon the Zalani had, didn't even slow down the human bullets. The metal projectiles punched right through the shield and into the ship's hull, tearing massive holes in the armor. "What kind of weapons are those?" Tisara asked over the radio. Watching human ships destroy Vorth vessels that had seemed invincible moments before Dr. Wells answered him. "We call them kinetic weapons. We throw heavy things very fast. Your enemy's shields are designed to stop energy, not solid objects." More human ships joined the attack. They moved in groups of 3 or 4, surrounding individual Vorth ships and hitting them from multiple directions. It was a tactic humans had learned from fighting each other for thousands of years, but it was completely new to the aliens. The Vorth tried to adapt, but they had never faced weapons like the humans were using. Their shields were useless, and their own energy weapons couldn't hit the fast-moving human ships. Within an hour, they had lost a third of their fleet, but the real shock came when human soldiers started boarding the damaged Vorth ships. Colonel Ben Torres led a team of Marines onto a Vorth cruiser, and the aliens inside got their first look at human warriors up close. The Vorth were tall and thin, with pale skin and large eyes. They had always won their battles with superior technology, never having to fight hand-to-hand. The human Marines were shorter, but much stronger, wearing armor that could stop most weapons and carrying guns that fired constantly. "They fight like demons," one captured Vorth officer told his captors through a translator. "We have conquered 100 worlds, but we have never seen anything like this." Colonel Torres looked at the alien and shook his head. "You haven't seen anything yet. We're just getting started." By the end of the day, the surviving Vorth ships were retreating. They had lost more than half their fleet to an enemy they had never heard of before. The Zalani defenders couldn't believe what they had seen. Tisara's ship approached the UEC Titan carefully. "Admiral Carter, we owe you our lives. But I must ask, what kind of people are you? We have never seen such fighting." Admiral Carter looked out at the wreckage of the Vorth fleet floating in space. "We're the kind of people who don't like bullies, Commander. And now that we know about you and your enemy, we're going to make sure they never hurt your people again." She turned to her communications officer. "Send a message back to Earth. Tell them we've made contact, and we're at war." News of the human victory at Kiros spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, every major species knew about the mysterious warriors from a place called Earth who had destroyed a Vorth fleet with weapons nobody understood. On the Vorth homeworld of Nexer Prime, Warcast Zephon stood in the Emperor's war room, watching recordings of the battle over and over. He was the Empire's greatest military commander, a being who had conquered more worlds than any Vorth in history. But he had never seen anything like what the humans had done. "Play it again," he ordered his aide, a younger Vorth who had barely survived the battle at Keros. The recording showed human ships moving in impossible patterns, firing weapons that ignored Vorth shields completely. It showed human warriors boarding Vorth vessels and fighting with a savagery that shocked even the Empire's veteran soldiers. "They are not like the other species we have conquered," the aide said nervously. "The Zelani fight to protect their homes. The Ithan fight because they must. But these humans, they fight because they enjoy it." Zephan nodded slowly. In all his years of conquest, he had never met another species that seemed born for war the way the Vorth were. Every other race they had encountered either surrendered quickly or fought desperately before being crushed. The humans were different. They fought like they had been doing it for their entire existence. "Send scouts to their home system," Zephan ordered. "I want to know everything about these creatures. How many ships do they have? What are their weaknesses? Are they another warrior race like us?" Meanwhile, on Keros, the humans were learning about the galaxy they had just entered. Commander Tessara had invited Admiral Carter and her officers to the planet's surface to see what the Vorth had been trying to destroy. The Zelani capital city was beautiful, but strange to human eyes. The buildings grew like trees, spiraling up toward the sky with living walls covered in glowing plants. The people themselves looked like tall, graceful humans with blue-green skin and large, kind eyes. Dr. Amanda Wells walked through the city with Tessara, asking questions about Zelani society and the galactic situation. What she learned worried her. "Your people have never fought a real war before this," she said to the Zelani commander as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city. "We are a peaceful alliance," Tessara replied. 17 different species joined together for trade and learning. We share knowledge, not weapons. Before the Vorth came, the biggest conflict in our space was a trade dispute that lasted 3 days. Amanda shook her head. "But the Vorth have been conquering worlds for centuries. How did you survive this long?" "We hoped that if we stayed peaceful, they would leave us alone. We were wrong." Back on the U-East Titan, Intelligence Officer Kate Murphy was going through captured Vorth computer files with the help of Zelani translators. What she found painted a disturbing picture of the galaxy humans had just entered. The Vorth Empire controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy's inhabited systems. They had a simple philosophy. Strong species deserved to rule. Weak species deserved to serve. They had been expanding for over 1,000 years, crushing anyone who stood in their way. But the captured files also revealed something else. The Vorth were fascinated by the humans. They had never encountered another species that could match their military abilities. "Look at this," Kate said to Admiral Carter, pointing to a translated message. "It's from their Warcast Zephon, too. The Vorth Emperor. He calls us potential rivals and says we might be another apex predator species. Admiral Carter read the message carefully. They think we're like them. In some ways, we are, Kate replied. We're good at war, Admiral. Really good. Most species in this galaxy seem to avoid conflict. We seek it out. The Admiral was quiet for a moment, thinking about what that meant. The difference is why we fight. They fight to conquer. We fight to protect. While the officers talked strategy, the regular crew members were making friends with the Zilani. Engineer Chief Danny Rodriguez was working with Zilani technicians to help repair their damaged ships. The aliens were amazed by human technology, especially how practical and tough it was. Your tools are so simple, said Vila, a young Zilani engineer. But they work better than our advanced equipment. Danny laughed. That's the human way. We don't care if it's pretty, as long as it gets the job done. He showed her a human plasma torch, a tool that could cut through almost any material. The Zilani had similar tools, but theirs were delicate and needed careful maintenance. The human version looked crude, but worked in almost any conditions. We build things to last, Danny explained. Where we come from, if your equipment breaks. In a fight, you die. On the flight deck, pilot Lara Kim was teaching Zilani fighter pilots human combat techniques. The aliens had fast, agile ships, but they flew them like they were afraid of getting hurt. You're thinking too much, Lara, told a Zilani pilot named Cass. In combat, you have to trust your instincts. Don't think about what might happen, just react. She took Cass up in a training flight, showing him how human pilots used aggressive maneuvers and split-second timing to win dogfights. The Zilani was a natural pilot, but he had never been taught to be aggressive. Your people are so violent, Cass said after they landed. But you use that violence to protect others. It is confusing. Lavra smiled. That's what makes us human, I guess. We're good at being bad to bad people. News from Earth arrived 3 days later. The government was in chaos, with some officials angry that the fleet had revealed humanity's existence without permission. But the military leaders were excited. They had been preparing for alien contact for decades, and now they had allies and enemies. More ships were being prepared to join Admiral Carter's fleet. Earth's entire space navy was mobilizing for what everyone knew would be a long war, but the most important news came from Zilani space. Other species were starting to ask questions about the mysterious humans. Some were afraid of Earth's military power. Others saw hope for the first time in years. A message arrived from the chacksworm, an insect-like species that had been fighting a losing war against Vorth expansion for 50 years. They wanted to meet the humans who had done the impossible. Admiral Carter read the message and smiled. Earth had wanted to stay hidden, but now they were becoming the center of galactic attention. The quiet species were looking to them for leadership, while the Vorth Empire was preparing for the first real challenge they had faced in centuries. It looks like we're not just fighting one battle, she told her officers. We're starting a revolution. 3 weeks after the battle at Keros, the galaxy was talking about nothing but the humans. Every news broadcast, every diplomatic meeting, every conversation seemed to center on one question. What did Earth's arrival mean for everyone else? Commander. Alex Price stood in the assembly hall of the Centauri station, the galaxy's biggest neutral meeting place. Representatives from over 50 species had gathered to discuss the human question. Some looked curious, others looked afraid, and a few looked angry. Alex had been chosen to speak for Earth because he was good with words and knew how to stay calm under pressure. But standing in front of all these alien beings, he felt very small. The hall was huge, with floating platforms for species that couldn't breathe the same air. Some aliens looked almost human, while others were so strange he couldn't tell which end was the head. A Terran representative will now address the assembly, announced the Ithan moderator, a tall gray being with 4 arms and large black eyes. Alex stepped forward to the speaking platform. Thank you for inviting us to speak. I know many of. You have questions about my people and why we came to help the Zelani Republic. An alien that looked like a walking tree raised one of its branch arms. We are the Verdani Collective. We wish to know, are humans another conquest species like the Vorth? Do you plan to take over worlds like they do? No, Alex said firmly. We came here because we heard people asking for help. We don't want to conquer anyone. We just don't like bullies. A being that looked like it was made of living crystal spoke next. You say you do not conquer, but your weapons destroyed a Vorth fleet in hours. Such power could be used to force others to obey you. Alex had expected this question. My people have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We know our weapons are dangerous. That's why we only use them against those who hurt innocent people. The questions went on for hours. Some species wanted to know about human technology. Others asked about Earth's government and society. But the most common question was whether humans could be trusted. While Alex dealt with diplomats, Admiral Carter was dealing with a much more direct problem. Vorth scouts had been spotted near human patrol routes, and intelligence reports suggested something big was coming. They're probing our defenses, reported Intelligence Officer Kate Murphy. During the morning briefing, small ships, fast movers, trying to map our positions and count our forces. How many ships do we think they have? Asked Captain Brooks, who had been promoted after his performance at KEROS. Kate pulled up a holographic display showing Vorth territories. Best estimate? Over 2,000 warships. They've been building their fleet for centuries. Admiral Carter studied the map. And we have 47 ships total, counting the ones Earth is sending. The Zelani can provide about 100 ships, added Dr. Wells, but they're not built for serious combat. So we're outnumbered 40-1, the Admiral said calmly. I've seen worse odds. Captain Brooks looked at her in surprise. When? I haven't, but I'm sure someone has. The joke made everyone laugh, but the situation was serious. Earth's fleet was powerful, but they were far from home and facing an enemy. With overwhelming numbers, the attack came 2 days later. Warcast Zephan had brought the elite First Fleet, 500 of the Vorth Empire's best warships. He planned to crush the humans quickly and show the galaxy that the Empire was still supreme. The battle began at the edge of the solar system, where human patrol ships detected the incoming Vorth fleet. Captain Nenia Foster commanded the defense, platform network that Earth had built around their homeworld. The platforms were armed with the biggest weapons humans had ever made, designed to stop exactly this kind of attack. All platforms report ready, Nenia announced Admiral Carter, who was commanding the defense from the orbital station above Earth. Remember, Admiral Carter said over the fleet communications, they think they know how we fight. Let's show them they're wrong. The Vorth fleet approached Earth expecting to find the same kind of ships they had fought at Keros. Instead, they found something completely different. The human defense platforms opened fire while the Vorth ships were still, millions of miles away. Massive railguns launched projectiles the size of buildings at incredible speeds. The Vorth had never seen weapons with such range and power. General Paul Wright coordinated the ground-based missile defense from a command center deep under the Rocky Mountains. When the Vorth ships got closer, thousands of nuclear missiles launched from hidden sites all over Earth. They're not like other species, Warcast Zephan said to his bridge crew as Vorth ships exploded around them. They fight like they want to die. What Zephan didn't understand was that humans were fighting for their home. Every person on Earth knew that if the Vorth won this battle, their planet would be conquered and their people enslaved. That knowledge made them fight harder than any alien could imagine. The turning point came when Marine Sergeant Chris Walker led a boarding party onto Zephon's flagship. The Vorth commander had never lost a personal combat, but he had never fought a human Marine. Before that, the fight was brutal and quick. Zephon was bigger and stronger than Chris, but the human was faster and more aggressive. When it was over, the greatest Vorth military leader in history was dead, and his fleet was in chaos. "This is Admiral Carter to all Vorth ships," the Admiral broadcast. "Your commander is dead. You have two choices: surrender or join him." Most of the surviving Vorth ships chose to surrender. Those that didn't were destroyed by the human fleet, which had been waiting in hiding behind Earth's moon. The news of the Vorth defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light. The empire that had seemed invincible had just lost its best fleet, and its greatest commander in a single battle. On Centauri Station, the assembly was in chaos. Species that had been afraid of human power were now amazed by it. Those that had been neutral were starting to choose sides. "The humans destroyed an entire Vorth fleet," said the Chak representative, clicking his mandibles in excitement. "They fought off 500 ships with less than 50. "It changes everything," admitted the Ithan moderator. "The balance of power in the galaxy has shifted." Alex Price watched the aliens argue and debate. He knew that Earth had just become the most important world in the galaxy, whether they wanted to be or not. Every species would now have to decide, were they with the humans or against them? The quiet war was over. Now the real fighting would begin. The destruction of Warcast Zephon's fleet sent shock waves throughout the galaxy. Within days of the Battle of Earth, Ambassador Helen White's communication center was flooded with messages from alien governments. Some wanted to trade with Earth. Others offered military alliances. A few even asked if humans would help them fight their own wars. That Helen sat in her new office on Centauri Station, reading through the daily reports. The Chak Swarm had officially requested a military alliance. The Delphini Collective wanted to share their Waterworld technology with humans. Even the proud Ithan, who had once called humans dangerous primitives, were now asking for meetings. "It's like the whole galaxy has gone crazy," Helen said to her aide, Lieutenant Mark Collins. 6 months ago, nobody knew we existed. Now everyone wants to be our friend. Mark looked at the stack of diplomatic requests on her desk. "What about the ones who don't want to be our friends?" Helen pulled up a secure file on her computer. "Intelligence says at least 12 species are planning to ally with the Vorth Empire. They think humans are too dangerous to be allowed to grow stronger." The first major alliance meeting was held on Kiros, where the human fleet had first proven itself in battle. Representatives from 23 species gathered in the Zelani capital to discuss forming what they called the Free Worlds Alliance. Admiral Carter stood before the assembled aliens, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. These beings represented billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. They were all looking to Earth for leadership in a war that was about to consume the galaxy. "We didn't come here looking for a fight," Admiral Carter began. "But when we heard the Zelani asking for help, we couldn't ignore it. Now we're all in this together, whether we like it or not." Commander Tisara spoke for the Zelani Republic. "The humans have shown us that the Vorth can be defeated. For the first time in decades, we have hope." The Chak representative, a large insect-like being called Prime Hive Zak, clicked his approval. "The Chak Swarm has fought the Vorth for 50 cycles. We lost every battle until the humans showed us new ways to fight. Now we win." Dr. Wells had spent weeks studying each species that wanted to join the alliance. The Chak were natural warriors, but had been using outdated tactics. The aquatic Delphini had never fought in space before, but had incredible technology for building underwater. The gas-breathing Valani could live in environments that would kill most other species. Each species brings something unique to the Alliance. Dr. Wells explained to Admiral Carter after the meeting. The Chak have numbers. The Delphini have manufacturing capability. The Valani can operate in hostile environments. Combined with human military tactics, we might actually have a chance. The first joint operation came sooner than anyone expected. Intelligence reports showed that the Vorth were planning to attack the Chak home system with everything they had left. If the insect people's main worlds fell, the Alliance would lose its biggest non-human military force. Commander Steve Bell was chosen to lead the new Strike Force Alpha, a mixed unit of human, Chak, and Zalani ships. It was the first time different species had tried to fight together as one fleet. The biggest challenge was communication. Human ships moved fast and relied on split-second timing. Chak vessels swarmed like insects, attacking from all directions. At once, Zilani ships were built for precision and preferred careful, planned attacks. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra where half the musicians play jazz, a quarter play classical, and the rest just make noise, Steve complained to his communications officer after a particularly difficult training exercise. But slowly, the mixed crews began to work together. Human tactical officers learned to coordinate with Chak swarm leaders. Zilani engineers helped improve human weapon systems. Chak warriors taught humans about fighting in large groups. The real test came when they reached the Chak system. Vorth had brought everything they could spare, over 800 ships, including some of their newest and most powerful vessels. It was the largest fleet they had assembled since the attack on Earth. But the Vorth were expecting to fight the same enemies they had always fought. Instead, they found something new. The Alliance fleet attacked in waves, each using different tactics. First came the Chak swarm ships, hundreds of small, fast vessels that confused the Vorth targeting systems. Then the Zilani precision strikes, hitting exactly the right spots to cause maximum damage. Finally, the human heavy assault ships came in, using their unstoppable weapons to finish off crippled Vorth vessels. They fight like one organism, reported the Vorth fleet commander to his superiors, as his ships were destroyed around him. Each species covers the weaknesses of the others. We cannot adapt fast enough. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Vorth had lost 2/3 of their fleet and were retreating toward their core territories. The Alliance had won. Its first major victory, but everyone knew the real war was just beginning. Back on the Vorth homeworld, the Emperor himself finally took notice of the human threat. He was an ancient being, over 2,000 years old, who had ruled the Empire since before most of the current species had discovered space travel. These humans are not like the others, he told his council of war leaders. They do not just defend, they inspire. They are turning our enemies into an army. The Emperor had lived through many wars and conquered countless worlds, but he had never faced an enemy that could unite his victims against him. "What do you command, Divine Emperor?" asked his newest warcast leader, a young Vorth who had been promoted after Zephon's death. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment, looking at star maps that showed human influence spreading across the galaxy like a virus. "Summon the core fleets," he finally said. "All of them, and contact our vassal species. Tell them the time for half measures is over. We will crush this alliance before it grows strong enough to threaten the Empire itself." He turned to look out at the stars, his ancient eyes filled with something they had not held for centuries: uncertainty. "And send scouts to the dark regions beyond the galactic rim," he added quietly. "If we cannot stop these humans with conventional forces, we may need to wake things that should stay sleeping." The war for the galaxy was about to enter a new phase, one that would test whether the young alliance could survive against the full might of an empire that had ruled for 1,000 years. The Nexus was the biggest space station anyone had ever built. It floated at the center of the galaxy's main trade routes, a massive structure that looked like a metal city among the stars. For 500 years, it had been the heart of the Fourth Empire's military power. Now it would be the site of the final battle. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Titan, looking at the greatest fleet ever assembled. Over 3,000 ships from 40 different species filled the space. Around her flagship, human destroyers flew alongside Czech swarm fighters. Zalani cruisers moved in formation with Delphini waterships that had been modified for space combat. "All fleet commanders report ready," announced Communications Officer Jake Harrison, who had been promoted after his role in First Contact. "We're as ready as we'll ever be." Admiral Carter opened the fleet-wide channel. "This is Admiral Carter to all ships. Today, we end a war that has gone on for too long. The Fourth Empire has hurt too many innocent people. Today, we make sure they can never hurt anyone again." The response was not cheers or battle cries. It was something deeper, the quiet determination of beings who knew they were fighting for something bigger than themselves. Captain Brooks commanded a squadron of mixed human and alien ships as they approached the Nexus. The station's defenses were incredible, thousands of weapon platforms, energy barriers that could stop entire fleets, and over 1,500 Vorth warships protecting it. "Remember the plan," Brooks said to his squadron leaders. "We hit fast, we hit hard, and we don't stop until that station is ours." The battle began when the first Alliance ships entered weapons range. The space around the Nexus lit up with energy beams, missile trails, and explosions. Ships on both sides were destroyed in the first few minutes, but the Alliance kept coming. The Vorth fought with the desperation of a dying empire. They knew that if the Nexus fell, their control over the galaxy would end. But they were facing an enemy unlike any they had ever fought before. Human ships used their signature tactics, hitting hard and fast before disappearing. Czech swarms overwhelmed Vorth defenses with sheer numbers. Zalani vessels provided precise fire support, while dozens of other species contributed their own unique abilities. The tide began to turn when Alliance boarding parties reached the station's outer sections. Leading one of these teams was Sergeant Chris Walker, now a lieutenant colonel, commanding a mixed unit of human Marines and Czech warriors. "Stay together," Walker told his team as they fought through the station's corridors. "The Vorth know this place better than we do, but they don't know how we fight." The fighting inside the Nexus was brutal. The Vorth defenders were desperate, and the station's maze-like structure made every corridor a potential ambush. But the Alliance soldiers had something the Vorth didn't. They were fighting for each other as the battle raged. Walker's team pushed deeper into the station, heading for the command center where intelligence said the Vorth Emperor himself was directing the defense. "Contact front," shouted Sergeant Maria Santos, Walker's second in command, as they rounded a corner into a large chamber. "Looks like the big boss is waiting for us." The Vorth Emperor stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his personal guards. He was ancient beyond imagination, a being who had lived for over 2,000 years and seen the rise and fall of dozens of species. His pale skin was covered in scars from countless battles, and his eyes held the cold intelligence of a master predator. "So," the Emperor said in perfect English, "having learned human languages during the war, the young species finally reaches me. I have conquered 1,000 worlds. I have destroyed entire civilizations. What makes you think you can succeed where so many others have failed?" Walker stepped forward, his rifle ready but not aimed. "Because we're not fighting for conquest. We're fighting for freedom," the Emperor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Freedom is an illusion, human. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is the natural order of the universe. Maybe where you come from," Walker replied. "But we come from a place where the strong protect the weak. The final duel was not just between two warriors, but between two ways of looking at the universe. The Emperor fought with the skill of centuries, using weapons and techniques perfected over millennia of conquest. Walker fought with the determination of someone defending his friends and family. The battle was fierce but brief. When it ended, the Emperor lay dying on the floor of his command center, looking up at the human who had defeated him. "You have won this war," the Emperor whispered. "But you do not understand what you have done. The Fourth Empire was not just conquerors. We were guardians." Walker knelt beside the dying alien. "Guardians of what?" The Emperor's eyes grew distant. "Long ago, before your species existed, something came from beyond the galaxy. Something that consumed entire star systems. We fought them for 1,000 years, before we finally drove them back into the dark spaces between galaxies." A chill ran down Walker's spine. "What are you saying?" "The Fourth Empire was created to watch for their return. Our conquest, our military might, it was all to prepare for the day they came back. And now, with our empire broken..." The Emperor's voice trailed off as he died. Walker stood up slowly, his mind racing. Around him, the sounds of battle were fading as Fourth Resistance collapsed. But the Emperor's words echoed in his head. Hours later, as the Alliance celebrated victory throughout the galaxy, Admiral Carter received a priority message from Earth's deep space monitoring stations. Long-range sensors had detected something massive moving in the empty space beyond the galactic rim. "Admiral," said Dr. Wells, her face pale as she studied the sensor data, "whatever's out there, it's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Multiple contacts, each one the size of a small moon." Admiral Carter looked out at the celebrating fleet, then at the sensor readings showing unknown objects approaching from dark space. The war with the Vorth was over, but she realized they might have won a battle only to face an even greater enemy. "Send a message to all Alliance fleets," she ordered. "Tell them to maintain combat readiness, and get me Earth Command. We need to know everything our scientists can tell us about what might be coming from outside the galaxy." As the Alliance ships began to spread out to defend their newly liberated worlds, ancient automated systems throughout the galaxy began to activate. Warning beacons that had been silent for millennia started broadcasting a single message in the old languages. They return. The galaxy had been freed from one empire, only to face a threat that made the Vorth look like children playing with toys. And once again, the newest warriors in the galaxy would have to decide whether they were ready to stand against the darkness that was coming for them all.